All right, we are back to another episode of what I've been calling the Love of Sports, Family, and Life. Not sure if that's an official name yet, but that's what we're talking about on here. So no, we'll roll with that until somebody comes up with something a little bit more interesting. My name is Darius Debo Barnes. No, excited to be on here once again, and we got some pretty cool stuff to talk about this week. Some really interesting subject lines that I'm going to talk about, especially in the college football realm. Some really interesting things going on there. Of course, the NFL, though things are starting to get together, and things are starting to round up, and the pretenders are starting to separate themselves from the contenders. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll end it, with an update on how the boys did with their high school game this past weekend, and how my mother is doing, and the continued prayers for her. So let's start with college. The games in college this week were a lot more interesting to me than what was going on in the NFL this week. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start there. No, we had rivalry week. No, rivalry week is a lot of fun because there is nothing more important, to fans than when their team is playing their rival. So we're gonna start with Ohio State, Michigan. Probably one of the greatest rivalries in sports, even though it's been a little lopsided. Ohio State has dominated this series until 3 years ago, where Michigan has starting or is starting to take it back over. If you look at the series in whole, Michigan does lead that series by some 8 to 9 games, somewhere around there, and you see Michigan starting to round out, make its way back to controlling that series. And we had that game where Michigan won. No, the Michigan won in the big house. No, for me, my rooting interest. Of course, we know I am a Michigan fan. I try not to be biased, with that, but no, I am a fan. I do root for that particular team. No, and they played a tough game. No, they played a tough team. Ohio State played tough, and Michigan just outworked them. No, in my opinion, Michigan um, just no. I'm not gonna say they big brothered them like they did Penn State, but they outworked them. No, you saw Michigan led the game in rushing, and they let the turnover bottle, and a lot of times that's what wins that game. Um, the question remains, though. The question is asked, though: is Ryan Day's job in jeopardy? And that's an interesting question there because Ryan Day is a good coach. There's nothing that says that Ryan Day is not a good coach. There's no evidence out there that would talk about him not being a good coach. They look prepared. They obviously are super talented. It's just this one game. This one game seems to be a struggle, though, for Ryan Day. Oh, well, for the last 3 years. This one game, and I don't know if no, it's out coaching. I don't know if it's toughness. I don't know exactly what it is, but it seems as if this Michigan team or these past, though, Michigan teams had just had his number. You know, um, don't know what it is. Second half adjustments. I don't know. You can say the sign stealing thing. I still don't understand the advantage that gives a team when you're stealing their signs. I'm not a football player, never played on that level, so I really don't understand how that is something that would give you so much of an advantage. But even that, no, obviously was not there this time. Yet Michigan still was able to pull that game out, at the end. So it's going to be interesting how fans and how individuals handle that. Where they want Ryan Day gone, or will they be okay with him winning 10, 11 games a year and losing that one game to Michigan? I don't know. No, so we can look at the Cooper situation. Cooper went through something like that, but he got like 12 or 13 times to coach this game. So they didn't fire him right away. So we'll see. But great game. Of course, ended on a turnover, where the safety for Michigan intercepted the ball. Heavy pressure on the quarterback, and of course, he's trying to get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. And it was nerve wracking because anytime they throw the ball that way, that kid normally comes down with it. So, as a fan, it was nerve wracking. But Michigan was able to pull that out, even though they had a really bad injury in their offensive guard, Zach Center, which seemed to galvanize the Michigan team, you know, and suck all the air out of the Ohio State team, which I didn't understand. If you watch that, it seemed like the game changed when Zach Zenner got hurt, but it changed for the better for Michigan. No, so I don't understand that. Maybe that's something that they'll do a 30 for 30 and break down later on down the road. So you had that game go on, and then you had probably one. No, it's not the craziest finish, but one of the craziest finishes I've ever seen here in the Alabama Auburn game. I don't know what happened there. Um, I was coming from, where was I coming from? I was coming from, I think, either my brothers are coming from the store or something like that. And or I was going to my brothers. And I'm sitting in the car because I don't want to watch this game. So I see third down, I see what happens, and I see Alabama's getting ready for the fourth down play. It's 4th and 31. And I'm saying to myself, oh wow, Auburn's gonna win this game. That is crazy. Auburn is going to beat Alabama. That's crazy. So I get out of the car, put my phone in my pocket, and I walk in the house, and my brother is standing in front of his TV with his hand on his head. So I walk in, and I'm like, what happened? And I'm looking at the TV. I see touchdown at the bottom of the screen. I see the Alabama players jumping up. And I'm saying, no, no way. And then you watch that play and you watch what happened. And that was not a fluke. That was just a great throw to a receiver that was in great position, and the DB got beat. Now we can all say, what was the defensive back doing? Why wasn't he doubled? We can say that, but after thinking about it, it wasn't that surprising because I saw Auburn play Georgia and they kind of did the same thing. They had an opportunity to win that game, and all I remember saying is double cover Brock Bowers. Double cover Brock Bowers. And for some reason, Brock Bowers is running down the middle of the field wide open all through the second half. Don't know why. So I guess it should not have been too surprising seeing it in that way because we saw it a couple of games earlier when they played Georgia. But what a heartbreaking way to lose a game. I mean, what a bad way to lose a game. I mean, I can't imagine what the Auburn fans, because that game was in Auburn. I can't imagine what those fans, just the the different emotions that were going on, because they're probably expecting to win, and then bam, you get this play, and now the game's over, and we lose it. And that saves their season. Believe it or not, that saves their season. That turns their season from maybe mediocre to success. Now, whenever you have these rivalry games, it does not matter what your record is. When you beat your rival, that automatically changes the season to a success. That's just my opinion. Automatically. Successful season. Why? We beat Ohio State. No, for Ohio State, we beat Michigan. No, for Alabama, Auburn, we beat that team. You look at some of the other rivalries that happen. Washington State, that's a successful season if Washington State pulls that out and beats Washington. It's a successful season if Florida pulls that game out against Florida State. That's how it works. And that's what makes rivalry week so fun. You never know what's going to happen with those games. You never know how they're going to end. It does not matter what the record is. It doesn't matter the point spread. Rivalry week is one of the greatest sports weekends ever, in my opinion, ever. So we have that, and now it comes to debate on who is going to be in the playoffs. Now we still have the 4-game playoff system. We have a board where they decide who's going to be in the playoffs, and I'm going to be honest here. Right now, they have Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Washington 3, Florida State 4. You can make the debate and the argument whether those are the top four teams or whether those are the best teams. You can make that argument. No, no, and you will probably see arguments on every side. No, you'll see arguments on every side. Um, what's interesting to me when it comes to these type of debates is how people go to bat for their conferences. You know, and I guess I understand it. I guess. I'm not one that really tries to be biased towards my conference. I love Michigan. I've loved them since I was a young kid. Still got to get around to tell you that story, how that happened, being from Miami, Florida. No, maybe one of these days I will. No, that's a teaser there. Um, but I do understand that when you look at the Big Ten, you have Ohio State, you have Michigan. No, third you have Penn State, and then you're dealing with maybe Iowa, and then everybody else is just no. Yeah, no, I won't even say it. you know. But it seems like everyone thinks their conference is the best, for whatever reason. I'm not one that thinks that, but I definitely don't know how the SEC thinks that this year. No, I'm looking at some of the talking heads, and I understand that they have jobs to do, and I understand that they have to go to bat for certain things because of money, this, that, whatever. I don't know. I don't understand how all of that works. But I'm listening to them talk, and I'm listening to them talk about these conferences. And I'm going to be honest. Right now, I don't really see a conference that has better than three, maybe even four really good teams. I mean, just the Power Five. You look at the ACC, you got Florida State, and then there's really no one else that really scares you, Louisville. Maybe that's probably the second best team in that conference. Clemson had a down year. Of course, the Canes had a down year. They've been having down years for a while. Um, that's pretty much it. You know, you look at the Pac-12, or whatever it is, Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever they call it now. You have Washington, who people still are on the fence on. They're still projected to lose this game. You have Oregon. We thought USC was going to be in that number, but they've kind of fallen off. We thought Utah would be good this year. They've kind of fallen off. So you're kind of looking at USC. I mean, I'm sorry, Washington, Oregon, probably the best teams in that conference. You know, you look at the Big 12 or the no, or I'm sorry, is it still the Big 12? I don't know. But you're talking about Texas, you're talking about Oklahoma, they'll be in the SEC coming up here in the next couple of years, so in the next year or so. But at the Oklahoma, at the Texas, I mean, Kansas State. I mean, I don't know. Kansas, I don't know. So no, you're just really dealing with those two teams. You talk about the Big Ten. You're talking about Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State's a step down. Of course, they'll be getting USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon. All of those will be going over there to the Big Ten. And then you got the SEC, where you got Alabama and Georgia. And then there's a huge step down, and you're talking about Missouri, Ole Miss, things like that. So, no, I'm listening to them talk, and they're talking about how you can't leave the SEC out. You can't leave the SEC. And I'm looking at Sly Good and Stephen A. and of course Paul Feinbaum and this, that, whatever. And I'm like, do you all realize that the SEC had a really down year this year? Alabama, good team. Georgia, great team. No, know what? I'll even go this far. Alabama, put them in great. They've been playing great. But if you're gonna come to me and tell me that the third best team in your conference is Missouri and Ole Miss, I'm sorry. You've had a down year. You've had a down year. I think you had Missouri, they were 10-2. Ole Miss, they were 10-2. I think LSU was somewhere around 9-3, 8-4, somewhere around there. And everybody else, 7 to 8 wins. Tennessee, not that good. No. Auburn, not that good. Kentucky, not that good. So I'm like, there's no possible way they think that this is still the dominant conference that it used to be. I'm used to looking at the SEC, Georgia, killer. No, Alabama, dominating. Florida, dominating. Auburn making noise. LSU scary. Tennessee could beat anybody in the SEC. I'm used to that, and it just wasn't that this year. It just wasn't. And that's not a slight against the SEC. It just wasn't a good year for them. It was a down year. Missouri is the third best team in the conference. That's a down year. Missouri not scared. If Missouri and Penn State lined up right now, I got Penn State's defense just dragging that out, making that a slugfest 16-10 game, and probably winning that game. Iowa might even beat Missouri. Who knows? So there's no way they can really feel that the SEC is such a dominant coverage. Alabama, Georgia, good teams, great teams. Can beat anybody in the nation. You know, but so can Michigan and Ohio State. They can beat anybody. I'm interested in this Oregon Washington game because when Oregon is on a game, that defense looks scary. You know, Texas, we've seen them beat Oklahoma. I mean, we've seen them beat Alabama. They can be a scary team. Haven't watched them much this year, but it wouldn't surprise me if they make noise. It just wouldn't. So let's stop it with the SEC, please. Let's just stop it. It was not the best conference this year. All conferences were sort of mediocre. No, probably because they know that they're moving, things like that. Every conference had two or three teams in there. So let's just call it how it is. And let's just see if we can get the top four teams in the playoffs for this last rendition of how we're going to do it. Now, I will say this. I'm hoping for chaos. No, and I know that sounds bad, but I am hoping for chaos. I would love to see Georgia lose to Alabama and see how they handle that. What's that going to do to Texas? What's that going to do to Ohio State? What's that going to do? With the Oregon and Washington game, is the winner of that automatically? And I would love to see that happen. I would love to see if they're bold enough to say, okay, Georgia, you lost to Alabama, you lost the SEC championship, but we still feel like you're one of the top four teams in the nation because they are, and they are the defending champs. So we're just going to move you from 1 to 4 or 1 to 3 or whatever the case may be. And now you have Georgia in who did not win the SEC championship, and the team that beat them is not in the playoff. That would be interesting to watch. So I am really hoping and praying. No, you're not supposed to pray for sports, but I am really hoping that there's some chaos that goes on there, just so I can see how they navigate through that. I think it's a pretty safe bet to say Georgia, probably one of the top teams. Michigan's one of the top teams. We'll see Oregon and Washington. I think the winner of that game gets in. I'll be honest with you. And Florida State is interesting because, of course, they don't have Jordan Travis, and that team is kind of being left out. Even to the point where people are saying, I don't even want to see them in the playoffs because we know they can't beat any of those other teams. Ah, I don't think that you punish a team for injuries. If a team goes out there and they play their heart out and they do the things that they're supposed to do, they should have an opportunity to play for a championship. That's how I feel. Now, if you were to ask me, do I think Florida State has a chance to beat Georgia? I would probably tell you no. If you ask me, do I think Florida State has a chance to beat Michigan with a backup quarterback? I would probably tell you no. But that does not mean that it can't happen. We've seen crazier things. No, and I know everyone will look at that TCU, Georgia game and say, "Oh, well, we don't want another. No, we don't want another no version or rendition of that." But if you look at it, the game right before then, you had probably one of the best semifinals ever with TCU and Michigan and Ohio State and Georgia. Both those games were phenomenal. Both of them. Great games. TCU showed up to play that game. They did. Georgia just overpowered them. I think that a lot of emotion was spent in that TCU Michigan game, which is why they didn't have that best game. But it just goes to show you that on any given Saturday or Sunday or Monday, anybody can win. So if you earn an opportunity to play for a championship, I think it should be given to them. But we'll see what happens with them. I think people are probably um, going with the foregone conclusion that it's going to be Michigan and Georgia. People thought that last year as well, that it was going to be Michigan and Georgia. But Jim Harbaugh, honestly, as great as he is in the regular season, does not do a good job or has not done a great job in the bowl games. I don't really know what his record is. I would have to look it up to see what his record is. But Jim Harbaugh's team has not showed up in bowl games, so it's going to be interesting to see how how that pans out this year. So we'll see. We'll see. You know what's interesting about Jim Harbaugh is I was listening to someone talk. I think it was Bomani Jones. No, I don't think it was Bo. Was it Bomani? I don't remember who it was, but they were saying that Michigan has three really good hires as coaches. You got Bo Schembechler, you got Lloyd Carr, and then you have Jim Harbaugh. It's interesting because Bo Schembechler, from what I remember, of course, I'm 44, so I don't remember him fully. I remember his name being thrown out there. No, and I know he was one of those tough, rugged coaches, but I don't remember him being hated. I definitely don't remember Lloyd Carr being one of those hated coaches. I think Lloyd Carr was really beloved, but man, people do not like Jim Harbaugh, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. He's different. No, he's very different. He seems to really only care about football for the most part. You know, I've never known him to be a troublemaker of any sense where he's out doing this or doing that. But man, he just people just don't like him for whatever reason. I don't know why. He's just not likable. It's so interesting when I hear individual talk about Jim Harbaugh, and of course, since we don't like Jim Harbaugh, we take that out on the Michigan team sometimes. It's such a cool thing because, of course, I'm a huge Michigan fan and I'm a huge Dolphin fan, being from Miami, of course. And my teams are in the main media stream. I've never seen that before. It also gives me an opportunity to talk about both those teams because they're in the main media stream. But with that being said, I don't understand why there's so much hatred for Jim Harbaugh. I think that he coaches tough teams. If you want to say, oh, well, he's a cheater, I don't think he does anything any other team's not doing. I mean, he may be worse at it where he gets caught or whatever the case may be, but you're not going to convince me that he's doing something that no Kirby Smart or no none of these guys are trying to do to get that extra edge. I don't remember hearing anything about him at Stanford. I don't remember hearing anything about him at San Diego State, you know. But no, is that reason as to why we're hating because of this whole scandal? I know we're not going to say we hate him because he bought a kid a cheeseburger. I mean, that's not a big deal. So it's interesting when I listen to the hate. I mean, even Paul Fibe, I'm just going to the point to say, Michigan wins the national championship. I want to acknowledge them. No, like why? You don't think Alabama's had its no little stuff going on? I mean, what are we saying here? I live in Alabama, and trust me, there is a reason why those kids are leaving Florida down in Miami and all these places and going to Tuscaloosa. Because I'm going to tell you like this, I've been to Tuscaloosa, and ain't nothing there. So they coming there for a reason, and I will be willing to bet my life that that reason ain't solely football. So you can take that for what it is. I don't know. I'm not saying that anybody's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying I don't think that there's something going on at the University of Michigan that's not going on anywhere else. You know, but Harbaugh just seems to be real hater, and he's going to have to show up in this bowl game. No, this is the opportunity that they have to win the national championship, something they have not done since 1997. I think they have the quarterback. I think they have the defense. I think they have the talent around them. They have the experience. No, let's see if they can make it happen. It's not going to be easy. Georgia's tough. I think anybody that they meet up with is going to be tough. But me personally, yes, I do think it's going to be Georgia. Although I would love to see Georgia lose in this SEC championship game, just so I can see what the committee decides to do with that. So, um, great stuff coming up. College football, of course. No, this time of year is winding down, so that's the sad part. But this is when it really gets interesting because we're starting to see who's going to be playing for that national championship, which is why they do it. So, great things going on. So now let's go ahead and let's change gears and let's talk about the NFL. Like I say, when it comes to the NFL, we're starting to get to the point where the contenders and the pretenders are starting to separate themselves. Last week was not a great slate of football. You had the Thanksgiving games. I think no, all three of them were kind of blowouts. The most interesting one was probably Detroit and Green Bay. Most people thought it would be a blowout, just the other way around. No, you had the Cowboys just put a spanking on the Commanders, and of course, you had the 49ers do the same thing to the Seahawks. Of course, our Saturday slate games, nothing really stuck out. Um, but you did have Buffalo go up against the Eagles, which was a very fascinating game in the rain. No, it's like a monsoon, and it seemed like both those teams were playing to win at certain times, and at certain times were doing what they can to give the game to their opponent. So, no, very interesting game. Eagles ended up winning it in overtime. Josh Allen loses another overtime game. But man, they had opportunities. No, they had so many. You had James Cook dropping the touchdown pass. You had Gabe Davis in overtime, or I don't know, Gabe Davis or Josh Allen miscommunication that ends the game in overtime. If no, the right route is ran or the right pass is thrown, and there's your touchdown. Game over. You had Jake Elliott hit like a 60-yard field goal, in the rain after Jason Kelsey has two false start. I mean, just crazy game all over. And Buffalo has put themselves in a really sticky situation where it may be hard for them to make the AFC playoffs. No, we thought that this AFC East was going to be the premier division. It's kind of interesting because we felt that way last year with the AFC West with Kansas City, Denver, San Diego, and the Raiders. And you saw those quarterbacks. You got Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson's over there, Josh Herbert's there. Who's gonna win it? And it turns out only one of those teams were good. It's kind of the same thing this year. Where we had Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers. You had the Dolphins with Tua. No, I guess nobody really thought the Patriots were going to be good. But man, it looks like the Dolphins are really running away with the division because Buffalo's 6-6. And with the way some of these other teams are playing, Denver has cut it on after having 70 put up on them. But now you look at them, they're over 500. The Texans, CJ Stroud, even though they lost last week to Jacksonville, but that team seems to be really good. They play solid defense. They have a quarterback that does not turn the ball over, although he had a few turnovers in this last game. You know, he seems to be very smart. He seems to understand what they're trying to do. Houston, I mean, that game against Denver this week is probably going to be one of the most fascinating games, just to see what happens. You know, so you look at Pittsburgh, somehow, some way, they keep winning games. So they just keep winning games. New offensive coordinator, but Pittsburgh keeps winning games. Of course, Cincinnati is playing with their backup quarterback, so you don't know what's going to happen there. And then you have your division leaders. You have Baltimore, you have Kansas City, you have the Dolphins. You have those teams there. In Jacksonville also playing great ball. So it's going to be hard for the Bills to get in, which would be such a shame because Josh Allen is such a talented quarterback. Yes, we talk about the turnovers, but he's such a talented quarterback. So talented, you know. But they got the Chiefs coming up. They got the Cowboys coming up. Oh, they got to play the Dolphins again. It's going to be interesting to see if they can win enough games to get in because right now, it's not looking good. It's just not looking good. So you had that going on. You had the Friday night game or the Friday game with the Dolphins and the Raiders. I'm sorry, Dolphins and the Jets. They played the Raiders last week. You had Dolphins and the Jets. Um, what was kind of a happy, sad game. It was happy for me seeing the Dolphins win. No, but we had a really crucial injury with Jalen Phillips, who we're really gonna miss. He's really gonna be missed as we get ready to go for that playoff push because he's such a big part of that defense, especially with what Vic Fangio wants to do with that defense with those two outside linebackers. So really hard, really hard to see Jalen Phillips go down, but the Dolphins were able to pull that game out. I think one play turned that game. You had the Hail Mary at the end of the first half after Tua throws two interceptions, which he's going to have to fix that if they want to get to that next level. If they want to play on that next level, where they are actual contenders that can make some noise, they got to stop turning the ball over. Meaning Tua has to stop the interceptions and the fumbles. But I think the game turned on that Hail Mary. Javon Holland catches at the 1 yard line with the running start. He takes it back, and the game was never close. After that, so great win for the Dolphins. And like I was saying, it's really a good thing, or it's really a cool thing, because in my lifetime, I've never seen the Dolphins and Michigan both be in the media, sphere, the media sphere, though, so heavily. So whenever you turn the TV on to talk to Dolphins for NFL, they're talking, Michigan for college. It's a really cool thing. So Dolphins win that game, and I think after that game, Tyreek Hill is up doing an interview, and he's asked, "Do he think that this team can win a Super Bowl?" And he says, "Yes, obviously." Now he also says that we got to do our part. We got to play. We got to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. But I absolutely think we can win a Super Bowl. And then he goes and he says, "I think this team that I am on now is better than that 2019 team that I was on in Kansas City that won the championship." And of course, the main media talking heads, who I will admit a lot smarter than I am. I will admit that a lot of them have played the game, been around it, things of that nature. I'm just a fan that observes it. But I will say this: I did not understand the just no I'm just gonna just knock that comment down. Tyreek Hill does not know what he's talking about. No, how dare he say such a thing? It's almost how they looked at that. And I'm listening to him, I'm like, well, what is he saying wrong? And it was like Patrick Mahomes was on that. Here's wrong. Patrick Mahomes was on that team, and Dominique Fowler. Well, they got Chris Jones to still whatever. And I'm like, well, he didn't say that Tua was better than Patrick Mahomes. It was almost as if they did this. They did the same thing when he said Tua's a more accurate quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? He talked about one aspect of their game. He didn't say that Tua was better than Patrick Mahomes. He said Tua was more accurate, meaning he probably can put the ball in places where I can keep running. Better than Patrick Mahomes. There's nothing wrong with that. No, to be honest, there's nothing wrong with that. If I say, hey, Cam Newton's a better runner than Patrick Mahomes, nobody's gonna scoff at that. No, he is. So I don't understand that when someone says that someone can do this one thing better than someone else, we automatically just take it to that level that they're saying that they're better. No, not saying that. I will say this though. No, what what Tyreek Hill is doing in Miami, he never did that in Kansas City. The year he had in Miami last year, he didn't have that in Kansas City. No, so he must have a pretty good idea as to what he was talking about with the accuracy. And it's the same thing with this comment here when he says, "Hey, I think this team is better." He's not saying Christian Wilkins is better than Chris Jones. It's not what he's saying. He's not saying Darren Smythe is better than Travis Kelsey. He's just saying from a team perspective, this team is a little bit better. I think what we tend to do is we tend to listen to that comment and we see one as a finished product. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl that year. They're a finished product. They're done. They're finished. This Dolphin team is not a finished product. That painting is still being painted. All right. They are no 8-3, so they're 11 games in. If they go and they win the Super Bowl, won't look like such a silly comment. It won't, because that means that in the Super Bowl they're beating a team like Dallas, San Francisco, or Philly. Sorry, I said Dallas first. No, but I'm just saying they're beating probably one of those teams to win the Super Bowl. All right, so it doesn't look like a crazy comment then. But no, he's just saying, I look at this team. That team had Patrick Mahomes. I think it had Jared McKinnon at running back. It had Travis Kelsey. And everybody else was just kind of like pieces. No, and because of Patrick Mahomes' greatness, they were able to do some things. And they were able to win the championship. I don't think it's anything wrong for him to say, wow, look at this. I got Waddle on this side. I'm on the other side. We got Braxton Berrios right here in the middle. We got Cedric Wilson here. We got Chase Claypool here, who we still have not even utilized yet, but we know how talented that guy is. He looks behind him. He got two at quarterback. Jeff Wilson over here. Raheem Mostert over here. Devon Achane over here. Then he looks over on the defensive side, and he got Bradley Chubb at one outside linebacker, Kristen Wilkins in the middle, Raekwon Davis right here. You had Jalen Phillips over there, but okay, now he's hurt. No, but you bring in the Medina Agba, he's no slouch. No, court the linebacker crew, David Long right there, Van Winkle, and then he's looking at his corner. He has Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey on the other side, with Javon Holland in the back. So I don't see the oh my God, how could he say such a thing? A team, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, is individuals that are collective, not one. It's it's a collective group of people that come together to make a team. And everybody was like, how dare he say that? That team got Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, we know, is the best quarterback in the NFL. Some may say he's probably the best quarterback to ever play. Won't argue with you. Won't argue with you. I still think Tom Brady is the greatest winner. No, but if you told me talent wise, Patrick Mahomes up there, I'm with that. You won't see me argue with that because I'm one that believes that Aaron Rodgers, before Patrick Mahomes came around, was one of the greatest talented quarterbacks in the NFL. So you're not going to really get an argument from me with that. But let's stop it with the, oh, how dare he says it when he just said team. That's all he said, team. And we started naming these individual players and saying they don't have it. Listen, please, no. All right. So Tyreek Hill makes that comment. Of course, no, that blows up just like the whole accuracy thing, which was all, which I thought also was crazy. There's nothing wrong with saying a quarterback is more accurate than another. Jeff George, no, for the longest, people said had the strongest arm in the NFL. They was like, Jeff George has a rocket for an arm. No. And if somebody said that, then nobody come and say, well, how dare you? Joe Montana is yes, we know Joe Montana is better. But it's okay to say Jeff George got a stronger arm. I mean, come on now. Let's do better with that. But like I said, I understand that there has to be conversation. No, there has to be conversation. So maybe that's their way of doing it. So a lot of things going on in the NFL. That's the AF side. Of course, you get an NFC side. It's going to be interesting to see how that Eagles 49ers game shakes out. Um, I don't want to say anything bad about the Eagles, but man, they are really squeaking these games out, man. Um, I'm not gonna say they're not good. We know how good that team is. We know how talented that team is. They're great up front on the offensive defensive side. As long as they have that, they're always going to be able to stay in games. But man, it just seems like them always going to these teams that are down to the wire is going to catch up with them. Doesn't matter who they're playing. It can be the Washington Commanders. It goes down to the wire. The Jets, they lose to. I mean, they're such a weird team this year, and I don't know. Maybe if the coordinator's been away, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting. But I tell you this, no, this is why it's going to be interesting because 49ers, they don't squeak a lot of games out. They come for your head, and they come to try to destroy you. So that's going to be an interesting game. You have the Thursday night game with the Cowboys and the Seahawks. Of course, we'll watch that because we want to see what Dak is going to do. I think on the NFC side, that's probably one of the few. No, those are the few games that's probably interesting. Not sure who Detroit's playing this week, but they're going to have to start playing a little bit better if they want to be considered in those, in that top tier of those teams in the NFC. So, some really good things going on in the NFL. Some really good games that we're going to see this week that I'm looking forward to. So yeah. So with that, no, let's go ahead and talk a little bit just to change gears a little bit. I know last week we talked about my kids and them having their high school no game to get to state. I will say that they play a tough team in Ramsey. Ramsey was really good, and they were able to beat my boys. This past week, and they didn't take it lightly. They took it very hard. They played great. Of course, Kadarius, he had two touchdowns in the first half. And all of that talk about them getting in your face, things like that. They changed that, really fast. By the time the first quarter was over, they're in cover two, on that side over him. So I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of him. Um, how they played throughout high school. It was very tough for them, knowing that this was their last high school football game. There was a lot of tears that were shed, and I just held them on my shoulders. Told them they got a lot of football left in them. We're going to get ready to get out on a recruiting trail. I'm going to be honest. This may be something that I take on myself, because I know that and I'm not saying this because I'm their dad, but I know that my sons are good enough to play ball at the next level at any school. No, they work hard, they're coachable, they're AB students, so they have their grades. They've already been accepted, into a couple of schools. No, I know Kadarius, he's already been accepted to Alabama State academically. He's already been accepted to Mississippi State academically. No, Sean, he's already been accepted to Jacksonville State academically. I know that they have the ability, both mentally and physically, to play at the next level. They do. So we're gonna hit the recruiting trail and see what we can do for them. So proud of them, love them guys. Looking forward to what they have in the future. Trying to get them to keep their head up. And last, just wanted to give an update for my mother-in-law. Of course, she had a brain bleed a couple of weeks ago. She has been moved out of ICU. She is doing a lot better. It's a work in progress. No, there's some things that we're still having to get done, and there's still some scary times, but we're staying prayerful. We're talking about getting her to a rehab facility so we can start the road back. So please, please, please keep my mother-in-law in your prayers. Mama, I love you. No, I'm forever thinking about you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you get better. So with that being said, that's all we have for today. Thank you all, those of you that may be listening to this. I really appreciate it. I enjoy this. This is something that I've always wanted to do. So, no, until next time, much love, no peace, and I will talk to you all, no, next week sometime.